I just unpacked the Haloview. I thought that you would be bored watching me unpack each individual item, so I went ahead without you. My first impression, really well made. The hardware is the mounting brackets in particular, metal and plastic, quite heavy duty. It looks well made. I mean, I don't know about the internal components, but the screen's a nice size. The camera's smaller than I expected, which is nice. You can see what's here. I can hardly wait to install it. We're going to install it on a 1997 Beaver Class A diesel pusher. It's an old beast and it really needs something like this, so I can hardly wait to get it installed. So let's get to it. Okay, let's go up and take a look at how we're going to attach the camera. Okay, so today I did a dry run earlier today with the antenna attached to the camera. And what I did is I powered the camera directly from an external source. I went right to the batteries because I didn't want to cut this wire away from the marker light until I knew everything was going to work well. Here's my test line. Where does it go? Good grief. Let's wander and find out where it goes. Oh, for heaven's sakes. Wired directly to the battery. What a crazy person. Well, it worked. When I turned on the monitor and gave power to the camera, 4 bars of connectivity, which was fantastic. It's just great. Haloview says if it's less than 2 bars, or 2 bars or less, I should say, then you really need to relocate the camera so that there's better reception. But I nailed it with the 4 bars right away. This motorhome is 30 feet in length, and the monitor is right to the left of the steering wheel, the far left. So pretty much 30 feet. Okay, so what I'm going to do is do away with this marker light. We have 1, 2, 3 marker lights here, 4, 5. We don't need the middle marker light. And rather than drilling new holes and attaching the camera below or above the marker lights, I'm going to do away with this marker light. I'm going to cut the wire here. One of these is negative, one is positive. So I have to make sure I get the right ones to the right places. And cut that off. But you can see that there's an indentation here. And the camera mount won't fit precisely inside this indentation. So, and this hole is really large. So what I've done is I've made a backing plate to go into this hole of polycarbonate. It's taped up because I'm going to put an adhesive onto this, and I just didn't want the one side to get covered in adhesive. So what I'm going to be doing is adhering this plate to here. And I've pre-drilled the holes for the mount of the camera mount, and a big enough hole for the connector from the camera to go through. So I'm going to adhere this tonight with sealant. It's an adhesive sealant. It's a Sikaflex product. It's called 295 UV. It's a marine grade sealant. I always like to use marine grade sealants on an RV. Why wouldn't you? You know, just because it's an RV doesn't mean that it's any different than a marine or a boat. You know, so anyway, I prefer the marine grade. Step 1 completed. We'll let this cure overnight, and we'll come and make the connections tomorrow morning. Okay, next stage for our Haloview backup camera installation. I've now got the two wires exposed. When I cut off the light bulb connection from the marker light, it doesn't tell me which one's positive and which one's negative. Now you have to match these up to the wiring harness of the Haloview camera. So you need to determine which is negative, which is positive. Easy to do with a DC system. You know, I am the least electrical minded person, but I've brought along my multimeter and that's what we're going to use. So to do this, it is kind of one-handed. These things are inexpensive. I think my son bought this for me as a gift. I think it was $35, $40. You can get them under 20. And some are fancier than this one, but this is just a basic one, which I find really useful. So what I'm going to do is just use the two leads. There's a positive and negative coming from the multimeter, and you just touch the wires. You just touch this to the end of each wire, and when you get a positive reading around 12 volts on this, you know that's it. So when I've already done it. And what I did is I determined that when I touched the red prong to this wire and the black prong to this wire, I got a positive reading up here of 11.9 volts, which was close enough. When I reversed them, I got a negative reading. So when you get the negative reading, you know that that's reverse polarity, so don't do it. I'll just see if I can try to do this with one hand here. I'm not getting a firm enough connection there, but you can see it's in the positive range, right? It's moving around. But if I had a really good connection, it would be 11.9. Now, if I switch this around and I touch the negative to the other side, you can see on the multimeter that I'm getting a negative reading. Minus, so that's not the way to go. So, now that we know which one's positive, we can take the wiring harness from the camera and wire it to these two wires, and then that's nearing the end. We're almost there, kids. So I have the camera, and I've screwed in the backing plate that they provided, and this is the lead wire coming from it. This is the gasket that you pull the connector right through this little hole, and it went through easily. This is really well made. I'm quite impressed. Everything fits nicely. So this is the way it will fit snug against the housing, that polycarbonate backing plate that I made. And you can see here there's a wire. So you end up with this. So we have this section. So what we're going to do is make use of this connection by putting the male end in, twisting. There's our connector. Now this is quite a length of wire. We don't need it all, but I'm going to use it because this excess wire can be, it can just fall into the end cap of the motorhome. And remember the two wires that we showed coming out of the plate that I sealed to the motorhome last night. There's your negative, which is black. There's your positive, which is red. Forget about the green wire. You don't need it, and you don't need to worry about this green wire here. You can actually just nip them off, because with a direct current system, you just have a negative and a positive. So I'm now going to expose the wire here, and this will be joined to the wire on the motorhome, and that should make the necessary connection. Now it's useful that they've provided a two-piece wiring harness, because when I go up to wire this section to the wiring harness of the motorhome, I don't have to drag up the whole camera. I can leave this until I'm ready to mount it, and then I just plug this end into this end. So we'll just take this piece and we'll go up there. So you can see I've crimped on two ends. Now I botched the first attempt. I used the fittings that Haloview sent because they were quite good. I was really impressed with them. But I've had to revert to my own, because when I was using my my crimper for the first time, I've never used this one before. My dear wife gave it to me as a gift years ago, and I've never used it. I've always used a different type. And when I was crimping the wire, I don't know if you can see it, but there's a cutting edge. There, I can't put my right in there. Anyway, there's a cutting edge, and I used the cutting edge to crimp, and it just sliced right through the crimper and the wire. What a failure. Okay, so you have to be careful with this crimper not to do that. Let's just carry on, right? You pick yourself up and you go. My work is slow, but my work is poor. It's always a good idea to, before you attach the camera, make sure it works. So I've just got it loose here. I'm going to bring up the harness that we've just wired in. Connect the two. And we'll go inside the motorhome, turn it on, and make sure that it works before we do the final step of attaching the camera. Okay, good news. We've got a really strong signal. The camera works. Everything's good to go. So we are now going to fasten the camera to the backing plate. And then that should be it. I just want to show you something before I do this. I like to use these little zip ties when you're putting wires into a cavity. You just clip them around the wires. I got a bee on my foot. Just clip them around the wires to take the tension off the wires, especially around fittings, so that if anything does tug on them in the future, the zip ties really help to just keep everything tightly together. So these kind of zip ties, they're just really useful. That's it. Nice firm fit. We'll just place the aerial on. Okay, the camera installation is now complete. This is what it looks like from the back end. As you know, we took out one of the 5 marker lights and just used the wiring from that to wire directly into the back of the camera. And with the aerial set at about, I don't know, 30 degrees or so, got 4 bars of connectivity immediately, which was great. Now this is a 30-foot motorhome, and you can see the driver's window there, and that's where the monitor is, right against the window. So great reception, 4 bars. Let's go inside and see what it looks like on the inside. So now that I've installed this device and used it on several road trips, what do I really think of it? If Haloview had not given this to me free of charge, would I spend money on it? It's about $550 on Amazon in Canadian dollars. Less than US dollars, of course, because of the exchange, but it's a lot of money. Before I answer that, let's think back to when I unpackaged it. My initial impression, pretty good. The hardware, everything was really solid. I was particularly impressed with the weight, the quality of the mounts. The screen is a good size. You can't feel this, but this is really heavy. It feels like good quality. All the pieces were there. So my initial reaction was, this is not cheap. It doesn't feel like a cheap piece of equipment. So that's a good thing. Okay? Moving on to the installation. I know I do things the long way, the hard way, but it was pretty easy to install. Intuitively, anybody can do it. If I can install something like this, you can too. All the parts were there. The connectors were of high quality. I didn't have any problem installing it, apart from how long it took me because I'm so slow. Not everybody would run test wires like I did and try it out first and put a backing plate on. It can be mounted pretty simply. So I know a lot of you would look at that and say, this guy takes forever. But the installation gets high marks for me too because I didn't have any trouble with it. And then with the road testing, which I was a little bit anxious of because I thought, well, there's a lot to learn on this thing. It was pretty easy. Intuitively, anybody can use this. I hate manuals. I've got the manual right here. I have barely looked at it because I just don't do well. And especially, as we know, overseas manuals are hard to read, tiny print, and the language isn't always perfect for we Canadian and Americans trying to understand things. This one's pretty good. But I just don't like manuals. So put that aside. If I intuitively can't figure something out, I don't want it. It's a pain in the butt. This thing intuitively was terrific. Oh, wait, I'll turn it on. This touch screen is really effective. I was surprised at how sensitive it is. I'm still learning it. I will go to the manual at a certain point, but intuitively, you can follow. Anybody can just follow the menu. It's so simple. This is the rear end of Monty, our motorhome. You can see the tip of our tow car. We do have another camera right here. It was a built-in camera when this motorhome was built in 1997. Black and white. It does the job. It shows the hitch when you're towing, and it shows the front end of your tow car. But that's it. It only extends 15 feet behind. And it's good for that purpose, so that you know that it's still there when you're traveling. But that's what we're used to, just that. This has added a whole new dimension. You can see well behind. You can adjust the height of the camera as well if you want to look further back, or increase it so you can see airplanes landing. But it's a nice clear screen. And when you want to change something, you just tap the screen, bring up the menu. So for instance, if you want to reverse and you want to have those backup lines on the screen, park line, hit that. Sorry. Hit park line, there's your park lines. But when you're traveling on the highway, you want them to go away, you just go back, park line, take them off. Another one is it's called the mirror effect. You can choose which orientation that you want. So for instance, I like this one, which is showing the orientation with this garden shed on the right. The garden shed's actually on my left, but this is what my mind works this way. When I'm backing up, I want to have this orientation. But if you want to have the different orientation, you just go back to mirror and you change the orientation. Now the garden shed is on the left. It's just whatever orientation you want for backing up. It may not, I may not make it, I may not be making sense to you on this, but trust me, when you've got this, you can just play around with it and you'll figure it out. It's just an easy menu to follow. Touchscreen's fantastic. One thing I want to say to you though, please do not use the touchscreen while you're driving. It's just common sense. Don't forget, your mirrors are your primary resource for knowing what's around you. Don't give up on your mirrors. This is a wonderful complementary device to have with you, but don't let it take over your mirrors. And what I would recommend is that you place it in a position in your coach or in your truck where your co-pilot can have access to it, because in my case, I found I was playing with it as I was driving and I was being distracted, so I had it over here. And it's all too easy to look down and then touch something. So I found myself getting into trouble that way. This is a great location though if it's set. I don't want to worry about the settings. But another location, I don't know if you can follow me. I'm going to move it over to another location. This is another really good feature of this Haloview system. It's so portable. And again, this is so heavy that I found that it sits perfectly here. And when I was on the road trip, that just stayed in place. And easy access for your co-pilot to just pick it up, hold it in their lap, make some adjustments, and put it back. You can angle it whichever way you want. So I'm hesitant to fix it in any one spot because it's just so portable. Another option is, of course, to move it up onto the dash. Ouch, ouch. Sorry, I meant to say windshield. So you could move it up onto the windshield. I have attached the second mount to the windshield just to show you how what it would look like if it was in position there. I hope you can see me. I want to tell you something about this mount. I know we've all bought windshield mounts that don't stay on. That they're flimsy, there's no suction. This thing practically pulled the windshield out when I put it on. I'm exaggerating, of course, but the suction was amazing, and this thing it's like it's glued on. It's fantastic. So, I think we will try it out here. That's the beauty of it. You can move it around wherever you want. This actually would be handy. Oh, dear me. Would be handy for my wife to get up and deal with it, but it's not so safe, because then if something happened and I had to stop quickly, then you're bang, So I don't know. But this thing is really well made. And to get it off is very simple. Put it on. That's terrific. High points for that. So thanks, Haloview, for giving us a chance to test this product. I'm going to leave some product information and links in our video description, as well as the end screen. And yes, we do get a small commission if you buy through us. That's not what this is about. Just want you to be happy. And if you find that you want to talk to me directly and you don't want to go through the comments section of the video, then just email me. Our email address is in our video description. Happy to talk to you about our experience with this. There it is. Thanks for watching. Safe travels, and we'll see you next Saturday.